tonight, wiped out. A surfer knocked unconscious after getting too close to a whale in Sydney. Dazed and hurt, passengers walk away from a terrifying crash landing in the United States. Pitching positivity, Kevin Rudd's new ad campaign as the government's policy on asylum seekers shifts to the right. And flying high and home, Lions fans toast their team after running away in the final test.
First at 5, 10 News with Lachlan Kennedy.
But first tonight, a Sydney surfer has a big tale to tell after surviving a thumping from a 15-metre whale. He was knocked unconscious in a brutal tail slap at Bondi Beach this morning. 10's Josh Murphy joins us now live from there. Josh, this man is very lucky, but what was he doing so close to the mammal?
Well, Lockie, this 37-year-old was initially captivated by the antics of the animal. It was getting...
Passengers who walked away with their lives say the crash landing of a Boeing 777 in San Francisco could have been much worse. This is what is left of the plane. Its tail ripped off, the ensuing fire burning huge holes in its fuselage. 2 people are confirmed dead. Looking at that, it's hard to believe that number isn't higher. US correspondent Daniel Sutton joins us now live. Dan, how did this happen?
Well, Lockie, by all accounts, this flight from Seoul was just coming in too low. There was no warning for the passengers on board. The tail clip. One final note, Lockie, consular officials tell me nobody on board that flight was travelling on an Australian passport.
All right, that's some good news. Daniel Sutton, thank you. Kevin Rudd will unveil his positive pitch for votes tonight in a national advertising blitz. But the Prime Minister has been accused of lurching to the right on the issue of asylum seekers. As Adam Todd reports, the government is launching another crackdown.
Kevin Rudd started the day at church, and tonight
he'll be... Still to come on 10 News, a flyby tribute to our Armed Forces Reserves. Plus, emergency evacuations in Canada after a freight train loaded with oil explodes. Also, Nigella Lawson gets her marching orders from her estranged husband. And will modern families Mitchell and Cam finally say, "I do"? We ask Eric Stonestreet. We've got some news just in. New South Wales coaching staff have just announced the team they hope will break Queensland's 7-year domination of Rugby League's State of Origin. 10's Liam Cox was at the announcement and he joins us with one very special guest.
Yes, Lockie, I'm joined by Blues coach.
For an update on all the weather details, here's Magdalena Rose.
Cheers for that, Lockie. Well, we've seen a very cold morning across much of southeastern Australia and a bit of a chilly day too, thanks to a number of fronts. But the good news is we've seen a fantastic amount of snowfall across the alpine regions, as much as 20 centimetres in Falls Creek. But let's have a look at what the weather was like across your capital city today. And for Brisbane, we reached a high of 23, that is 1 above average. Meanwhile, for Sydney-siders, it was actually the coldest morning so far this year. The day, though, made up for it with 19. That is 3 above, and the sunshine is set to continue tomorrow. But then we'll see some showers rolling in, so make the most of it. In Canberra, after a frosty morning, we reached a dry high of 13 degrees. It was very cold and showery across Melbourne today with 14. As you can see on the radar, they developed across the west during the lunchtime hour, and then they moved across much of the region, missing out on the city itself. But we have seen around 1 to 2 millimetres across other suburbs. It was also a cold and showery day in Adelaide with 14 degrees. The city itself picking up 0.6 of a millimetre, but that's after 24 millimetres yesterday, which was the heaviest rain in 2 months. After a cold morning, Perth today was lovely with 17 degrees. Alice Springs reached 21 and Darwin was nice and warm in the 30s. Lockie, more weather later on in the bulletin.
Sounds good. Magdalena, thank you. A 13-metre southern right whale stranded in Victoria's Gippsland Lake system has made its way safely back into the ocean. The mammal made the most of the high tide around 7 this morning, swimming out of the heads into the Tasman Sea. It did suffer blisters from being exposed to the sun during the 2-day ordeal, but experts believe it will make a full recovery. Coming up on 10 News, a Perth man looks set to be deported from Saudi Arabia, leaving his brother behind in prison. Plus, Charles Saatchi to divorce Nigella Lawson, claiming she failed to defend his honour. Also in sport, a full wrap of how the Lions blew the Wallabies away in last night's deciding test. And the Kennett curse strikes again as Hawthorn's 12-game winning streak is brought to an end by Geelong. There's a very serious story developing in Canada where one person has been confirmed dead and up to 80 are still missing after a train exploded right in the heart of a small town. The 73-carriage driverless train was carrying crude oil. Still to come on 10 News, an update on what's making headlines across the country. Plus, Sydney police crack down on alcohol-fuelled street violence. And an appeal for the return of this man's wheelchair stolen while he was watching the footy. Time for sport now with Adam Hawes. And Adam, it's been a tough 24 hours for Wallaby James O'Connor.
Yeah, Lachlan, he's had better days, that's for sure. After his Wallabies were thrashed by the Lions, James O'Connor was dumped by his Super Rugby franchise. More details after the break. Also, will Robbie Deans be told to pack his bags? The coach under renewed pressure after a Lions mauling. See you in Origin camp, mate. Papali tramples fellow Maroon Thurston as the Raiders do battle with the Cowboys. And stepping out of Big Brother's shadow, Brandon Jack kicks 4 for the Swans against the Demons. Good evening. If Wallabies' defeat wasn't bad enough, James O'Connor has been told he won't be needed at his Super Rugby club Melbourne next season. It comes as Robbie Deans' future is also in the balance following the series defeat to the British and Irish Lions, who romped to a record score of 41-16. We don't like violence, Lockie, but I reckon he had that coming.
I think the commentators were a little bit excited.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. Adam, thank you very much.
No worries.
We'll stay with us. Weather with Magdalena is straight after the break.
Well, good evening. We're seeing some very cold conditions across southeastern Australia and fairly miserable too, but there is a change on the way thanks to a high. So let's get straight into it and see what the weather's doing at your place. On the satellite image, you can actually see that very cold air here. Now, this is indicated by the speckled cloud. That's what's bringing low-level snow, showers and very cold winds. We've also got a little bit of cloud across inland Western Australia with a trough bringing in some patchy rain. Now, there will be another front crossing Tasmania tonight, maintaining the showers and winds for much of Tassie and Victoria tomorrow. But then this high is very quickly moving in, so it's going to clear on Thursday and Friday. Lucky?
Magdalena, thank you. That is 10 News for this Sunday. Thanks for your company. Good night.